Are you struggling to implement innovation and change within your organization? With a unique human-centered innovation approach, Orange Sparkle Ball, or OSB, helps organizations break through roadblocks and pain points to achieve measurable results. OSB is not your typical consultancy. OSB's agile approach to innovation allows you to move quickly to action and achieve measurable pilot results. To learn how you can drive innovation and success in your organization, contact OSB today at hello@osb.co. That's hello@osb.co. Hello, friends, and welcome to your Daily Detroit, sharing what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. I am Jer Stays, and across the table from me on wonderful Fridays is
Devon O'Reilly. We both got the memo in some kind of pink tropical, let's just call it tropical hues here with our shirts today.
Oh, 100%. I feel like, although it's a little too early for it, I just feel like a Mai Tai right now.
Yeah, man. I think, once 4 o'clock hits on a Friday, or we can go on island time.
Well, it is good to see you, and it's good for all of you to join us on our Daily Detroit. So here's the deal. There is a lot to talk about today, and there's a couple of places that each of us have been. So you're not just getting one, not two, not three, but 4 places we have been since the last time that we caught up. And so, Devon, I feel like I have to give you the floor first.
I like this because it's kind of back to the roots of the show when I would come on, at least back to my roots on the show, where I would literally come on and only talk about places I've been. I've got a double header today of places I've been because I think it's worth mentioning, and both places I would highly encourage listeners to check out. The first is the Hudson Cafe has reopened. We talked about it undergoing a massive redevelopment, and to it is massively redeveloped. It's totally different inside, more upscale, kind of clean, modern look to the Hudson Cafe. Full bar. The bar section feels more like a bar. You see the liquor bottles. It's got the backlit bar. Like, it looks more like a cool bar than it was, where before it kind of was like an afterthought.
It's been open for a long time, and I know it was beloved by some, but it was time for a refresh.
It was absolutely an anchor of Woodward even, 10, 12, 15 years ago. And I was actually sitting next to somebody who was talking to their partner and saying how they hadn't been here since 2006. So that's how long at least it's been around. But I popped in for lunch because in my head I remembered it had reopened. I was looking for somewhere to grab lunch. I used to live above the Hudson Cafe, basically. Kind of a little bit of nostalgia for me there. And it was really cool. Now, the menu hasn't really changed much, for the better. I mean, that's good, I think, that the menu stayed the same. People love the food at Hudson Cafe. The menu will be very recognizable. There's a whole new drink menu, though, with pancake breakfast shots, all sorts of different breakfasty, brunchy type of cocktails.
I was walking downtown the other day, and I walked past it, and I couldn't miss the fact that there was a big bar. The bar is by the front window.
Yeah, definitely the bar has been brought forward. They had cereal milk shots, which they only served them 3 for $25, and I did not have a companion with me to help take down breakfast shots.
Paging Engineer Randy.
But those would have been interesting to try. I'll have to get them when I come back. But yeah, I got a fig, brie, bacon jam crepe that was really, really awesome. Shout out to Hudson Cafe. And I have to mention the crowd, incredibly diverse. There was a Tigers game going on, or about to go on. So you had a good amount of, you could tell, pre-Tigers traffic. Let's call them suburbanites.
I mean, you can tell it's the Jersey.
Suburbanites, visitors. Yeah, for sure. You had a good amount of business folks because you could see the badges and lanyards. You could tell they're either conference or business folks. And then you had just an incredibly diverse crowd of just Detroiters who were just hanging out and having a good time. And everybody seemed to be very lively. It was a very kind of lively space. A lot of booze being served at noon, which, hey, I don't mind that at all.
Listen, somebody should open up a bar across from Kobo and call it Lanyards.
That's not bad. That's not bad. And
that would be a national
just give you
chain.
A lanyard when you walk in.
Yeah, and they do over at Lincoln Tap, where you just put the little RFID in the lanyard and then get your beer, and there you go.
Here, you just put a new bar idea. I think we'll have to talk to Dane about that. So that was a great experience.
I want to mention, though, that Hudson's has been expanding. So they've got a new Northville joint, and just in the news this week, they're opening up in Troy over by Big Beaver.
I mean, it's a great concept. You also saw that with a Jagged Fork a little bit. There was one Jagged Fork for a while. It was really popular, and now I think have at least 3 or 4 of them. But yeah, Hudson's, it's ripe for expansion because it's one of those we talk about super approachable. The food is always really good. They've got brunch, lunch. They've got booze. You know, we talk about, Jared, what do we love? Those places where you can get a little bit of everything, depending on what mood you're in. Do you want coffee and eggs? Do you want a giant tower of drink with your stack of pancakes? I mean, you can really get it all.
One of the places I've been, I think you can really get a little bit of everything. I went off the beaten path, and I'm glad I did.
Okay. I love the wandering spirit. That's how I found most of the places that are on my list.
Imagine a New York-style Dominican bodega in Lincoln Park.
I can't really imagine it, but apparently it exists.
It exists. It's called La Bodega, and I ate there. If you're into Dominican food, there's a lot of dry rubs, things like that, a lot of fusions of different cultures because of where it is and all the different countries and things over the years that have brought different things to the country. But it's amazing juices. I had a horchata that was based on pineapple juice. It was amazing. Passion fruit, a tamarind. I mean, really great juices. The food, you know, if you're not familiar with Dominican food, I just encourage you to go try it. As I said, there's a lot of more of a dry rub vibe. So this little market, it is totally inspired by like a New York bodega. And when we say bodega, I mean bodega. Like, this is not like a place with like the green wall and like wine and crap like that. Like, this is a bodega. There is no bodega cap, but in my mind, this place had a bodega cap.
Maybe it was hiding. It could have been around.
The kind of restaurant has just a few seats. It's in the back of the place. It is over there by Outer Drive and like Dick's Toledo. I'll put a picture up on Instagram. Also, they have some amazing fried cheese. So if you like cheese sticks, they do a great job of frying the cheese where the outside of the cheese is like what would normally be like the breaded part, but it's all cheese.
I like the sound of that.
Listen, was it a bit of a cheat meal? Absolutely. Do I have regrets? Absolutely not. No regrets at all. And so go check them out. They just opened up about 3 months ago. They're still working out everything. And I think it's great that there can be a neighborhood store there. You can get fresh vegetables. There's like all kinds of like little things. So if you live in Lincoln Park or live in that area, it's the kind of thing that can kind of serve you. So I just wanted to give them a shout out and really enjoyed it, and for sure try the juices. Oh my gosh.
Sounds delightful. It's definitely one of those destinations because, like you said, where it's at, it's not somewhere you would normally pass unless you're in that area, but it sounds like it's worth the trip. I would love to check it out. It's not too far from me, so I think I can shoot down Outer Drive.
Just shooting down Outer Drive, yeah.
It sounds like a plan. Great little nugget there, Jer. Speaking of island vibes we mentioned earlier, I also checked out a place that we've alluded to and talked about before, but it had started off with a little bit of uncertainty around the hours, which, you know, that's always an issue for us. The Brisa Bar, smack dab in the middle of Campus Martius. I remember when that whole sandy beach area was such a free-for-all. You could literally just grab a beer from one of the stores and just crack it and sit on the beach. You remember those days?
Oh, yeah.
It seems like forever ago. It was probably only like 10 years ago. But now it's become a little more commercial, which I'm not saying that in a bad way necessarily, but they built this beautiful kind of tropical resort style bar on a boardwalk kind of plank thing adjacent around the beach area, and they've turned it into a legit cafe, restaurant, and bar called Brisa Bar. I stopped in. It hadn't been open before during the day, but it was open during the day. Stopped in right after my Hudson Cafe lunch, and sure enough, they were open. There were some people hanging out there, maybe some workers from downtown taking a siesta. It was a really cool vibe. Again, you get that kind of like resort in the middle of downtown Campus Martius vibe. They have a full menu of food, so like wraps, chips and dip, shrimp tacos, full bar of like tropical slushies, that type of thing if you're into it. Beers, of course. So it was a really cool vibe, and I made sure to ask if there's going to be consistent hours, and sure enough, they are 11 o'clock to 11 p.m., basically all day, any given day, Monday through Sunday. So
those hours are so important, and it's so great to see that activity back with Campus Martius in downtown there. That's the kind of thing that'll get people really excited to be there,
Yeah.
And a place to stop by in those hours. There are not enough places with late hours that's kind of spread things out a little bit, And I think 11 is a great time to kind of pack it up. If you really want to push harder later into the night, there are plenty of places if you go down streets to do that. At my stage, I'm generally kind of packed up by 11 p.m. when it comes to going out.
Yeah, but I would echo that, Jared. 11 would be the latest I'd be out these days. But it's really good to have it there because there's going to be a lot of activations. We alluded to Summer in the City. We're looking forward to the last episode, I believe, and as I walked through Campus Martius, you saw that they're activating that green space just on the other side, closer to One Campus Martius. There's a bunch of movies. They have a list of the movies that are coming up. They show movies over there. They do concerts over there. So this Brisa Bar really acts as a nice little food and beverage anchor for all the activity that's going to be taking place in Campus Martius. And all that activity in Campus Martius, by the way, will be free. Movies will be free. Concerts will be free. So there's going to be a lot of free, fun stuff to do in Campus Martius this summer.
I really hope that we get the opportunity to do some maybe Campus Martius shows. I know we're doing a lot more in-person shows and stuff coming up for the rest of the year. And of course, we've got our happy hour coming up on June 21st from 5 to 8 p.m. at Castalia. I've learned over the years, although I know I've repeated it a couple times on the show, that I have to repeat. Otherwise, people don't get the thing. So make sure to check that out. I want to see your Campus Martius Park. I'm not going to raise you, but I am going to mention that one of the things that I've done while sitting there in the area there, eating my lunch or whatever, I am an avid Facebook Marketplace scourer. I'm always hunting for weird things on Facebook Marketplace. So it sends me all over the region. And I ended up having a Taylor Swift themed coffee in downtown Wyandotte at a new coffee truck that is going to be opening up later this month as a coffee shop called Kekoa Brew Company. And it's on 3rd Street, just a little bit south of downtown Wyandotte in a little strip mall over there. I know a lot of listeners have been moving into that area. One listener said it was the People's Grosse Point, which really cracked me up. I appreciate you out there, whoever sent that in. Solid thing.
I've also heard Royal Oak of Downriver.
Oh, we should do a poll. Which one is Wyandotte?
Except Royal Oak doesn't have waterfront when Wyandotte does. So, I mean, point Wyandotte there.
Oh my gosh, the West Sider is standing up for his own.
I mean, hey, you can't beat the waterfront stuff. They got some amazing places over in Wyandotte. Well, I have to ask you, Jared, what in God's name is a Taylor Swift themed coffee? How do you do that?
Okay, so I saw this on Instagram. There are 7 different coffees that they were doing this weekend for the Eras Tour.
Oh, of course.
And so everything was there. So I did, of course, the Reputation era. You know, dark cold brew was what it was. But there was a variety of things. And they did a really nice job. And I took Gabby with me on this little sojourn. So, you know, the dog got a little pup cup. Everybody was happy. But I want to just highlight just, you know, a new thing in an area of town where I get the letters. Whenever we talk about Wyandotte, things like that, listeners show out. So, yes, I am paying attention to you down there. And also a great place to find Facebook Marketplace finds. If you've got ideas on Facebook Marketplace finds for the studio, for anything, like it's a habit. It's an addict. I don't know if it's healthy at this point, Devon.
I was going to say, Jerry, be careful now. You're going to become a hoarder.
All right, let's get into some news. Time is ticking on the Broadhead Armory. That is over by Belle Isle, East Jefferson. There has been this plan for the parade company to turn it into their new headquarters and workshop and event space. They've gone public with their fundraising campaign. They've raised like 15-20% of the money. They're looking to do a bunch more. The deadline that the city has set, now this could be extended, but the deadline currently is September 30th for them to pick up the money and be able to kind of redo this. They plan to build an addition on the back. They plan to restore the murals inside of the Armory. It's a very cool building on the east side. But also, Tony Michaels and them, there's some fundraising to do in order to make this thing happen.
Yeah, it would be really cool. I mean, obviously, there's the historic preservation element to this, which would take the Armory, which is an amazing building, give it new life, create a place where people could come for events, could come check out all the amazing floats and different designs that they have kind of year-round. Currently, you know, they're, like I said, off the beaten path, shuttered away in a
like Mount Elliott near that freeway bridge.
There's no windows. It's like, it's not a great way for kind of showcasing. And I think that Tony and the Parade Company have the right idea in the sense that I think a lot of people think about it as well. They just have their one day to shine, Thanksgiving Day parade, but really this is a year-round operation that does a lot of charitable work, that does a lot of good work in the city, and I think that Tony's of the mind that this should be something to be enjoyed potentially year-round. You know, you should be able to come to the Parade Company or be able to check out stuff or be able to go to an event at the Parade Company space, have it be a cool space, interact with the people and the floats and the decorations that are going to become part of this parade year-round. I think it's a really cool idea. They do a great job at raising money, so I'm confident that they'll be able to do this. It's a very, you know, a lofty endeavor. But it'd be really cool. And it would, like I said, I think the fact that we can take this one day thing, the Thanksgiving Day parade, and really make it something that can be enjoyed by the public year round would be really cool.
And I've gotten a lot of questions over the years, and even in our own Slack, because people aren't as familiar. They see the parade, they see the TV, they're like, well, it's for one day. Well, there's also the fireworks that happen every year. The Parade Company ends up supporting so many parades around Metro Detroit. If you go like to the Grosse Point Park Parade, you'll see Clifford the Big Red Dog and, you know, some other ones out there. There's also a lot of just fun work that they do that helps enhance areas, that helps fund their work. So if you've been to Somerset, you see the castle, you see the flying stuff, Parade Company, right? They bring so much joy in different ways, and it's more than just that one day. Although that one day does bring a lot of eyeballs and a lot of television eyeballs to Detroit, the Parade Company is the kind of thing where If you know, you know. And you and I have both been to their breakfasts and other things. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure to share with people to understand that it is so much more than the Thanksgiving parade that they do in the community.
There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot year-round that they do, a lot of ways you can interact with, like you said, the parade company, pop-ups and different things that they have. So I'm looking forward to it, Jer. I hope they raise the money, and it would be really cool to see that Armory redeveloped into something that, again, the public can really enjoy and use right there on the riverfront.
Couple of development items to add on to this. Apparently, and this is according to Crane's Detroit Business, which is funny because Crane's Detroit Business is the owner of Crane's, is actually part of this story. There may be movement with the old Brewster Rec Center now. The city of Detroit back in 2015 announced some big grand plans for that area. That's right by Brush Park, if you don't know. Very historic. I think that's where Joe Louis trained, right by Ford Field, right by Eastern Market, right by Brush Park. But it's been sitting for so long, vacant and kind of deteriorating. And there is now word that a group that builds low-income housing, MHT, is interested in picking this up. One of the owners of Crane's, Casey Crane, and a partner who also does Vincetta Garage, apparently picked it up for like $320,000 back in like 2017. Anyway, it's interesting to see some development go forward or be rumored about. It's also interesting to me to see that it's low-income and affordable development. I have always been wondering why that area doesn't get done because it'd be such a great connector. It seems like a huge missed opportunity to not get that area rehabbed and fix up the center if you can and all those other things.
Well, one, I hope that they keep some of the bones of the rec center. I don't know what it looks like inside. I'm sure it's in rough shape, but it's such a historic building. I would like to see them keep it. But having said that, it really is probably the right fit for this because you have low-income, affordable housing across the street. There's multiple developments that you want to say older. I'm older, but still, there's multiple.
And there's senior housing right there?
There's senior housing. So that area already has a lot of that. I'm sure it could handle more. It's also a great area because I think that if I'm just putting my planning hat on here, that area really connects Eastern Market to Brush Park. And as Brush Park becomes more of a high-end, we'll say, there's really expensive housing in Brush Park. As Brush Park becomes high-end, more amenities become in there. You also have Eastern Market adjacent. And it's something where if you lived in one of these developments or you live in one of the developments across the street that already exist and you may not have access to reliable transportation, what you do have the advantage of is you have Eastern Market right there. And you can walk to Eastern Market from those developments.
You can get to Woodward very easily too.
And you can bike, and there's multiple modes of transportation that you can get to Eastern Market. So it puts you on the doorstep of all of the fresh food, the affordable produce, and all of that retail that Eastern Market has. So it's actually a really good place for affordable housing. So I think that really is the right mix here.
Well, when we talk about affordable housing, it's not just about super low income, but also middle class and workforce housing, which I think is a better term for it. Brush Park is interesting to me because, and I'm not saying that she did it because she built it, but then, whatever happened, Nicole Curtis redid the Ransom Gillis house and all of a sudden, boom, everything. Now, right across from that, a place recently closed, Saucy Brew Works, national chain, pulled out of Detroit. The numbers just did not work for them. Are you surprised?
I'm half surprised, and here's the reason. Brush Park has built up a pretty good density now. You have a lot of folks, a lot of those buildings, a lot of those townhomes, the carriage homes are filled. You have the seat of this thriving neighborhood. So you have a lot of traffic now, people who live in the area. So I think that neighborhood can support more restaurant, food and beverage concepts. Now, the reason I'm not surprised is because I have visited Saucy Brew Works a handful of times over the past couple years, and it was a really large space. So I can only imagine how much the rent cost. It was a really large space. It had a coffee shop in the front. It had a big, long pizza, beer area. And it just really wasn't anything to set itself apart. And remember, Jared, this is going to be my theme for this year when we're talking about new places. What sets you apart? Tell me you open up a new place. I'm going to ask you, what sets you apart? What are you doing different? And Saucy didn't do anything different. They had pizza. It was fine. Their pizza wasn't any better than Michigan and Trumbull, even Buddy's, and their beer. Perfectly fine. They have a few different IPAs, a few different porters.
Does that not portend well for chains?
I don't think it does portend well for chains unless those chains, I think chains go in your downtown or the midtown commercial corridor. Chains can thrive there, but you try and put a chain a little bit off the beaten path, and I think that's a recipe for not having success because, again, chains also mean a lot more money. They just cost money to open. They cost money to operate, more money to operate. So I think this would be much better served as a more organic, local-based type of an operation.
Now, Robin Runyon from Urbanize was listening in on a hearing yesterday. There's a new development that, well, not new. They've talked about it, but the plans are starting to come together to do a 9-story apartment building on Broadway in downtown Detroit, save a couple of the facades. Now, this is in the same area that's, I think, across from the old Punch Bowl Social. There's a liquor store that was there for years. You remember that liquor store. I remember that liquor store, but that has been closed for a long time. That actually facade would get deleted because it's been structurally compromised, according to the reports. And then a couple of the old facades kept, but a 9-story apartment building built on Broadway. Details still coming together as we're recording this, but more apartments downtown and an area that I frankly think is underutilized.
I think so too. I think this is a great development. Broadway needs more residential. There's the opportunity to put a lot of residential up there. I think the caution that I would say to any developers on this is remember where you're at. You're not on Woodward. You're not even on, Washington Boulevard.
Which is going to transform hugely with the book
but
tower.
right now, but yes, exactly. Yeah. But right now, you got to think about price point. If these folks want to put in this development and think they're going to charge, $2,000, $2,500, $3,000, I don't think they're going to get it.
Are you not as bullish on those high-end things? Or are you particularly bullish in certain areas?
I'm bullish in certain areas.
Okay.
I think that's where I've landed on this is more residential, but I think the market needs to level out a bit because we can't only have high-end residential in downtown. And I'm pro-development, Jerry, through and through. But what I'm seeing is a lot of the new stuff, it's all high end. And I don't think that's a recipe for success either because the market can't bear only new high end developments coming in and people will not pay for it. I want to throw this out there because that's close to the Exchange in Greektown. We talked, the Exchange when they built,
which is getting huge dollars in some places,
which is asking for huge amounts of money.
So is that riverfront development. A listener of the show told me that they got privately pitched for an apartment in that riverfront development near at the 7-figure number.
I don't see it happening. I think the Exchange is just going to have to reset their expectations for what they're going to get because $1 million or $800,000 for a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment in that area is not going to cut it. You have to remember where you are. You're not living at the Hudson site. Hudson site, you can ask whatever the hell you want and people are going to pay it. Book Tower even, an absolute jewel. But you can't build these kind of smaller developments and then expect this luxury price tag. So I'm supportive of this happening. I think it's going to be great, but I think they need to be cognizant of that price point.
Feedback, dailydetroit@gmail.com. Big thoughts. We've got a ton of feedback to go through before we finish the show. Man, our last few shows have gotten a lot of people in a lot of ways. This Fisher Building development.
We haven't even talked about that, Jared.
You and I haven't talked about it. I know we beat it up in previous shows. Before we get into these comments, real quick, a thumbs up, thumbs down for you.
Oh, thumbs up. That shouldn't be surprising.
No, but I wanted to ask you. I don't want to assume. So let's get into these comments. Some of them I'm going to save for Norris when he comes back from LA because some of them are directed at Norris. I'm not going to ask you.
I will defend Norris if I need to.
Right, but there's some awkward things in there that I think Norris needs to address. And not that he did anything wrong, but listeners felt a big way about Norris. So listener feedback from Robert. I think this is a great opportunity for the city. Glad my dollars are going towards this. I'm assuming that they're an alumni.
A Spartan, I would assume, yes.
James, why does Michigan State and other universities get to have giant endowments? Buying the Fisher Building just means more fancy blanks living in Detroit. This is a blue-collar city, and everything we build now is for people who put technology and education first. What happened to making things?
Well, James, endowments for schools are the work of benefactors and people who give them money. So I think your beef is in the wrong area here. Sorry that schools have...
tuition doesn't go to endowments.
Yeah, sorry schools have giant endowments. People like Stephen Ross have given hundreds, and even Ishbia in Michigan State. I mean, everyone has benefactors who've given tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. So I'm sorry there's a lot of money flowing into institutions. I'm actually glad that the educational institutions are flowing that money into economic development, into things that will bring people to downtown. I love the fact that Michigan State is investing in Detroit. That's awesome to me. So I don't see the downside here.
Look, college affordability is an issue. We need to talk about it. I think that's a separate piece. This is a situation, too, where you have to compete. And when you're a Big Ten school, you better have an endowment. Like one of the challenges that Wayne State continually has is their endowment is very small. So there's only so much that they can do compared to a Michigan State or a U of M, which is basically almost Ivy League.
Yeah. So let's level set here. This project, what is it? 12, 13 million bucks that they're purchasing the building for?
I don't remember the exact numbers.
Something like that, but let's
I want to say it's 21 or something like that.
Maybe even that high. But let's juxtapose that with the Michigan State endowment, which is estimated at $3.9 billion.
I did not realize it was 3.9.
$3.9 billion is the endowment. And that pays for a lot of stuff. It pays for scholarships. So endowments also help cover scholarships for students. But this is such a little drop in the bucket for people to get upset about, like, oh, how dare they take all this endowment dollars and put it in this is nothing to them.
I will also say this. I understand over the last few months, there is a big feeling in the inbox that people are uncomfortable with change. But I think realistically, all of Metro Detroit, whether it's demographics, whether it's whatever. This is an era of change. And so people are going to be unsettled. And I hear you, and I hear that change is hard, but also I think that in some ways, and I just, my life experience, change is inevitable, if that makes any sense, Devon.
You have to embrace change. I mean, you have to, in your own way. A stagnant city, a stagnant community is not a thriving community. It never is.
Well, and change will happen whether you grab a hold of it and be a part of it, or it will happen to you.
You can, yeah.
And that's even worse.
You can be a part of it. You can fight it. You can sit on the sidelines. But I think if you're a part of it, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to agree with all of it.
Of course not. A healthy debate is great.
You can be part of the change and help enact it in your own way. But I think fighting these massive things, whatever you want to call them, these massive, tides that are going, fighting them, we know how that works. You don't swim against the tide. You got to go with it, but bring with it your principles, bring with it the things that you want to see change in, but don't keep fighting and kicking and screaming, because stuff like this will just keep moving and it'll just run you over. I'd rather you kind of be a part of it, even as a dissenter, but be a part of it and help enact the change in your own way.
Thanks to Fletcher, Randy, Cheyenne, Norris, of course, Devon. Good to see you. Thank you for all your help. Thanks to Luciano. Thanks to everyone who listens to the show, plus those who have supported us at patreon.com/Daily Detroit. With that, I'm Jer Stays.
And I'm Devon O'Reilly. I'm going on island time now.
Have a wonderful weekend. See you on Wednesday, the 21st at Castalia. You are somebody, and we'll see you around Detroit.